Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another amazing, exciting, fun edition of Word the True. I'm hosting for you guys this evening. My name is Tawny Millard, and we have with us the lovely Dawn, my cousin. Hi, Dawn. We have the lovely
Hello.
Kristen, my cousin by association. Have the mother of this podcast who started it all, my real blood cousin, Astrid Brown. Welcome, Astrid.
Hi.
There
Hi,
you are. Yeah,
everyone.
we can hear you now. All right. So, we have been talking about the theme of love for the month so far. And this week, we're going to be talking about the difference between loving and being in love, which being in love is something I feel like I have a whole lot of experience with because I'm just a very loving
We all
person.
do.
I just always find somebody to fall in love with, So I feel like it's amazing. I feel like love overall is just it's amazing. It's so complicated. It's so beautiful. It's so fun. It's so many different things. But um, I'm not really sure like what the difference is all the time between loving and being in love, other than the fact that sometimes being in love can be very like butterflies, thinking like, la, 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 like you just, birds are swimming around your head and, everything is just beautiful. Everything is pink and everything is rosy and everything is so pretty and love and your heart is beating all the time. Like that's what I kind of think about when I think about like being in love. And then I think about loving is really more of like the ugly part of love, to be honest. Like it's like the ugly part of love. It's like the changing of the baby's dirty diaper. It's like stuff is it could be something as simple as that. It could be something as like, just I'm my husband through this really challenging time that he's going through right now. Maybe he lost his job and he's miserable and cranky at home, or, my teenager is being all, ornery and I'm just, I'm still loving them like through all of that, like kind of like loving through the ugly stuff. Sometimes I think about loving being like that. And we talked about this like 2 weeks ago about like how love is a commitment and it's like a decision and it's action. Is not only a feeling that starts with the feeling, but it tends to go deeper than that once we really focus our energies on the object of our love, whether it be a spouse or a family member, so on and so forth, like that. So um that's kind of like my take on it. And I just I was thinking about like, okay, like being in love, like to me that's like the fun stuff. So I always like to start like with the fun stuff. So Dawn, who was married to my cousin Eugene, what was your experience when you were falling in love? How was that for you when you were falling in love, and how did you know that you were in love?
Well, first off, in my opinion, the term being in love to me can only be and should be associated with um, a romantic relationship. Being that, I'm not in love with my son. I love my son, but I'm not in love with my son. I
Right.
love
Yeah.
Astrid, but I'm not in love with Astrid. I love
Right.
you, Tony, but you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, yeah. So I think, in my opinion, in regards to being in love, is like I've always said, first of all, when it comes to entertaining a relationship with someone of the opposite sex, or a romantic relationship, I should say,
Yes.
it starts off first by attraction. There's something that attracts you to the person, and there's something about you. No, there's something about the person, I should say, that attracts them to you, and there's something about you that attracts, to the person. So
Mhm.
then there's mutual interest, to get to know the person. So I do agree with you that, being in love can be somewhat described as, the feelings of butterflies and, and all of that. I think it's a feeling of like having like a insatiable appetite just to get to know the person, or desire. You just want to know the person, get to know the person more. You're just so fascinated with them, everything that they say and do, the way they laugh, the way they dress, the way they, the way they make you feel. Yeah, nothing, exactly. Nothing could go wrong, initially, so when you start to fall in love with a person, those are the feelings that you have. Your desire is for them only. You want to only be around them. Some people even go as far as even dismissing their friends and other family members, and just focus their attention, 100% on this particular person. So I think the initial stage of loving someone of the opposite sex starts first with being in love. Then you start having feelings like, you can't imagine or seeing yourself, without this person. Then, you want to take the relationships even further. You want to, get married, or you want to commit, because I speak from both a secular standpoint and also, from a Christian standpoint. So as Christians, yes, if we want to be with this person, live with this person, we have to be married. From a secular standpoint, our non-believers or non-Christians, they may say they want to, they want to commit to this person. They want to be, in a monogamous relationship with this person, whether it's living with them or, just being with them only when it comes to, being intimate, and things like that, So when they start to fall in love with this person, they want to commit everything, to this particular person. And also and then loving to me comes from a feeling of care, just wanting to want the best for the person. You love them, you care about them, you're kind to them, you want to do for them, you want to make sure that they're okay, if they're hurting, you're hurting also. So being in love, well, depends on the worship, on the relationship. Being in love with someone from a relation, like from a male and female relationship standpoint, it can be both, a combination of both. You're in love with them and you're loving them also. Because the same way how I said, like I said, I love Astrid, I want the best for her. I love Chrissy, and if Chrissy's in a crisis, I'm going to go out of my way and, be there for her. And if Tawny's not feeling well, I'm going to go out of my way, make her some food and, make sure that she's okay, take her some cold medicine or whatever, It's the same thing about, the same kind of love you also have when you're in a relationship, with someone. So you can be in love with them and you're loving them also at the, at the same time. Now, where it can get to a point where sometimes it can just be loving them only when it's your significant other is because us as human beings, we don't have the capability to love unconditionally. Some people think they do, but technically they don't. Our love is based on condition. It is. Because if that person is not treating you right, if that person is upset you, or there's things about the person that just really getting on your nerves, and you start to see that, where you're not compatible and stuff like that, that's where the term comes about, where it says, I don't think I'm in love with this person anymore. You can love and care about them. You want the best for them and you don't wish them any harm or wish them any bad, but you're not in love with them anymore, because us loving them or being in love with them is based on conditions. Because that's how.
So that kind of begs the question, though, because we know that God loves us unconditionally.
Yes.
So if God's love is the benchmark for unconditional love, and you said that love, like when you're in love with someone, it's a romantic relationship. So is it safe to say that God is not in love with us because it's not a romantic relationship?
God loves us. I don't recall or ever seen the term in love with us in the Bible. And Chrissy and Astrid, you guys have been to Bible school, and and I know Chrissy personally studied the Bible extensively. As a matter of fact, I still have one of her Bible commentary dictionary or something like that she gave Eugene.
Seriously?
I'm looking at it right. Yes, I do. I still have it.
That? Wow.
I still have it. Yes, I do.
Totally blown away.
Very sentimental person. Very sentimental person. I still have it. I'm looking at it right now, as a matter of fact. And you know, the thing is that I don't recall, and that's why sometimes I have to honestly say, when I'm in church or I'm in a church setting, I don't like to hear people talk, you know, I'm in love with Jesus, or Jesus is in love with me, you know, and things like that. The scriptures specifically say, for God so loved the world. The Bible says also in, I think it's First John, you know, we love him because he first loved us.
Yes.
You know, it's always referred to loving
Love.
or
Yes.
loved, but
Yeah,
not
but
being
not
in love.
Yes.
You know, yeah.
Agreed.
So, as a matter of fact, I don't recall really in the Bible. I did read it from cover to cover last year. I don't recall ever them using the term. I don't know if because of the translation. I don't recall ever seeing them or reading them using the term. Like you said, Jacob was in love with so and so, or David was in love with so and so. It would say you would say, you know, the person loved the person or loves the person, but I've never really seen the term in love. I think it's more of like a modern day term, you know,
Well,
to
it kind of is,
to
and it
describe
kind of
feeling.
isn't, because we have all those, and I guess is it the Greek, all the five, the four of the five different ways that they said love back in the day. So you have your
Yes.
agape, eros. Those are all different types of love.
Love.
We only have the word love, and so, but eros is what you're talking about when you're saying in love.
Yes,
The
because
eros
it stems from the word erotic.
we would have to actually go back
but
to the
eros is
original.
it's more like sexual.
Yes, erotic. Yes,
But
it's
first
from,
more
yeah.
but
sexual.
yeah, but that's the in love part too, because just
Yeah.
like Dawn was saying, and I totally agree with her, that usually when you're talking about in love, you're talking about a romantic relationship, and romantic relationships between a husband and wife obviously are going to end in sexual connection. So,
Yes,
you know, yeah,
definitely,
yeah, that's
definitely. So, you know, so like I said, yes, you can go from being in love with someone to just loving them, you know, loving and caring about them. Because you know, I truly believe that, you know, God is really the only person, even though you said, you know, like you said, we should emulate him, you know, because he's our perfect example.
yeah,
But God is the only person that can truly love unconditional.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
because he's not human like us. We are human and we fail, you know, we falter, we're not perfect. So yes, we our love can be conditional.
Yeah,
There are times, I'm going to be
balance,
honest,
yeah,
when I get very up, when Jabez upset me when he was little, I
yeah.
don't really feel, I feel like my level of love came down a notch or maybe a couple of notches. Okay. That doesn't mean
Oh
that
God.
doesn't mean that I didn't love him anymore totally.
Yeah,
But yeah, I kind
it's
of
like
feel like, you know, it
yeah,
came down, yeah, it came down a few notches, and then
Test and
he may have
trial.
redeemed himself and it went back up. So yeah.
right. Hence the conditions.
Hence, yeah, exactly.
Hence the
Hence the
conditions.
conditions. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Too cute.
So, Chrysalin, what is your take on all of this? Since you are a well-versed,
Yes.
well-versed guru person with all this.
I actually agree with a lot of what Dawn just said. But I think both of them are a choice. When we say that we love someone, we choose to love them, whether it's family members, people that we met in school and college, you know, those old girlfriends that we said we just love so much. We grew up with them. But there's degrees in loving someone. So, like you were talking about Jabez, how you love him. We love our family members. We really choose. And then we got, you know, our Uncle Bobs and our Aunt Sues and those people that give us a hard time. But we still love them, right? We'll travel halfway around the world to see them, to, you know, help take care of them. But you might not do that for an old college friend, but you love them. So I think that there are degrees in loving, but I also believe that, you know, that kind of love is by choice. You can choose to love a person or not to love a person. It doesn't matter who it is. You can choose not to love your sister or your brother. But I think being in love is just as much as a choice. And the reason why I say that is because, as Dawn was saying about the mutual attraction that you have for one another, you go through the vetting process, you see the chemistry that's going on, and you start liking that whole process of, you know, that feeling, you know, because we are emotionally driven by, you know, whatever it is that we're courting or whatever. So you get to the point to where you're like, wow, okay, this might be going somewhere. You feel yourself loving that person.
Mm.
And they may ultimately ask you to marry them. But I do believe, now this is just my personal opinion. Viewers, if you're watching, this is just my personal opinion. I think that truly falling in love with a person comes when you make it on the other side of that pain and the struggles and the hard time. Because the euphoria of it all is something that we all can agree with. We can all attest to that we had the butterflies and we had the, oh my gosh, you know, floating like our feet are not on the floor.
Yeah.
We went through that honeymoon phase when we were dating them, and we went to bed at night. We were like, oh my God, I'm thinking about him. Oh, wonder if he's thinking about me, kind of stuff. And, you know, all that good stuff that comes along with it. At the end of the day, you know, even though you've tested and vetted and you've got to know this person and you've been around them, you've been around their family, and you think you know everything about that person that there is, and you're like, okay, yes, men do the chasing, women do the choosing, because men ask you, will you marry me? And we say yes. So we ultimately make the choice, right? That's why I said love is choosing. You make a choice, you make a decision, and you believe at the end of the day that it's going to work out. And I think that, you know, once the honeymoon period is over and the real world begins and the real struggles begin, and you see there is no conflict. There is nothing that, as TD Jake says, that can't be negotiated. I think that everything can be negotiated in a relationship if you love someone. But then, you know, if you know things before you got married and we got married anyway, that's a whole different story, because we already knew what we were signing up for. But, you know, if you agree that this person is, I love him, and, you know, you're going through the motions and whatnot, there are going to be times when that relationship is going to be stretched like a rubber band to the point to where it feels like it's going to pop. But if you can make it on the other side, what you ultimately find is that, you know what? I'm really, truly in love with this person. This was the person for me. I made the right decision. I think that after all that you've been through, you find out how much in love you are with that person. You made a decision to love them, and you say, I love you. You say, I love you. I love you. But then you find out that I'm really in love with that person at the end of the day, once you made it through. People don't make it through 30 and 40 years of marriage without getting some scrapes and some knocks and some bumps and some lumps. There is no way you can live through that many years without having something come up that's going to challenge that relationship. And the strength of the relationship is being able to come out on the other side, you know. And some of us can't make it to the other side for whatever reasons. Things happen, and you're like, you know what? It's not that I don't love you. It is not that I don't want to continue loving you. But this thing here, it's a wedge between us. And if you find that out after the marriage, then, you know, that's the whole thing and about getting to know people. Like, but if we knew something before we got married, then it's on us. You know what I mean? But I really believe that when you're in love, being in love is the act of a process of going through the love that you had, the initial love for that person, and really, really going through whatever it is, the test of time, the test of the storms, the rains. You know, we're not going to always have summertime and spring. The winter's going to come, the fall is going to come, and it's going to start shaking some stuff. And how you approach whatever that struggle is, how you respond to that struggle is going to either strengthen what you have for that person, or it's going to begin to erode how you feel for that person. If you hang in there and life lasts and death pass, and you make it through, you're going to find out that you really, 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 really do love that person. That's just my personal experience, because I think that initially loving Perry was one thing, but I'll tell you, he was a really, really, really good man. I mean, he was a good man. I mean, to love me through my stuff, and I had some. But he hung in there, you know. But I loved him all the more for it. It didn't mean that we didn't have challenges that ultimately that really stretched us beyond the limit. But I will say that I found out that I loved him more as we went through the process, as opposed to when we actually initially went into the relationship. Because now you bonded in a way. You're learning idiosyncrasies about that individual, even their shortcomings and whatnot. You might say to yourself, you know what, I can't put up with this, I can't do this, and I can't do that. And then you start to think on, you know, something that makes you look at that person in different light, to where you're able to look past, or you're able to deal with, I won't say look past, but you're able to deal with whatever that thing is. Because saints, ladies, I think that really loving a person and being in love with them means that you allow them to be who they are. If it's not taking anything away from you, can we allow each other to be who we are in this relationship, in this union? Can we allow each other to be the person that each other are? If we can do that, then we can make it. Now, there are things that, you know, we can talk about that, but that's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about being loving and being in love. Mm-hmm. You can love, but being in love is like a higher stage, especially as it relates to a spouse. I think that you go from loving to being in love to being in love with that person. I think that ultimately you don't really get that kind of love until you really went through something. You ever love? I mean, I think about Sister Dawn when she talks about Brother Eugene, like really what they went through, you know, and loving someone through the process, and you realize, I really love this man, and him vice versa. I really love this woman. I mean, I'm at the point now where I don't want to be without them. That's when you're in love, when I don't want to be without this person. And irrespective of what we've been through and the challenges that we've had, I don't want to be without them. You know, I don't want to be without this person. Then you know that you're really, truly in love with that individual, when you get to the point to where you don't want to be without them. Now, I don't know what the other underlying stuff that comes up in relationships. We can talk about that another time, but you know, for now, we'll leave it there. But there are reasons why you should not be joined together. But you know, that's another conversation. But if you get married in spite of that, and you're not really ready to handle that challenge, it can be really painful and very difficult. Letting go. But when you're in love with a person, even though that person is not around, you love that person, even though they're no longer in your life anymore. There is nothing that can quench that love. That love goes beyond everything. And you know it. You know, nobody can replace that love. Nobody can touch that love. It's just, you know, you just go, you know, into another realm when you get to that place. That's just that's just my personal opinion.
Yes,
It's about the love of God. The love of God is so different. It's an agape love. It is not like the love of man, because the Bible strictly says that God is not a man.
Yes,
it's not a man. That's the first. That's just that little piece of snippet of that scripture. And the fact that that's another story too, that God loved us. He so loved the world. God loved us.
So many other stories.
You know, I'm sorry. I'm
Chrissy, but Chrissy, you have me thinking now. You're correct. I do, now that I think about it, you're correct in regard to the stages. I think initially you're falling in love. Mm-hmm. Then when you get with a person, then you start loving them. Mm-hmm. And then you go from falling in love, loving, to being in love.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Falling in love, loving, and then in love. You're truly 100% in love.
Like the permanency of it all.
Yeah,
yes,
like you said, nothing that what happens will not change it, because I can attest to that no matter how much weight Eugene lost, no matter how emaciated he was looking, you know, and things like that, you know, not able to, you know, function and walk and breathe on his own, you know, and things like that. I was still in love with him. Mm-hmm. That love did not change at all. Like you said, it didn't change.
It doesn't change.
It didn't change. And even he questioned me. He's like, how can you still love me? You know, he's like looking behind him and talking to me, you know. Yeah, as he was walking to the restroom one day, you know, he was like, how can, and I said, yeah, because I know who I'm in love with. It's not really,
Yeah.
it's not superficial. I
That's
Right.
know
right.
who you are.
Mhm.
I know what you're about. You know, it's not
Yes.
all about looks. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go be with some, you know, snag a tooth, you know, one eye,
Oh my
you
God.
know. Yeah. Yes. No, that's not happening.
Lord
You
knows I
know.
got my own story with that.
Leave
Yeah.
that one
You know
alone.
what I'm saying?
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, but I know I'm saying, because I mean, yeah, I mean, everybody has their
Oh my
preference, everybody
God.
has their
Yes.
ideal person, you know, that they want to be with, you know, and nothing is wrong with that.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me
Right. Some people,
personally, you're, yeah,
Beauty's in the eye of the
to me,
beholder.
exactly. To me, you're
some
not
people
being,
like the
you
one
know,
eye.
superficial. If you prefer long hair, short hair, if you prefer somebody who's athletic, we prefer
Right.
somebody who's a little bit more
Yes.
curvy. You know,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
everybody
Yes.
has their
Yeah.
preference.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
beauty
but
is
at the
in
end
the
of the
eyes of the
day,
beholder.
when you fall in love with somebody, you truly take your vows seriously. When it
Mhm.
gets to
Yes.
that point, you know, for better, for worse. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how they look. You know, they may not look so athletic anymore. They may not be so curvy after having,
That's
you know,
right.
or having, the Coca-Cola
Yeah.
bottle
Coke
figure anymore
bottle.
after
Yeah.
having,
Yeah.
the 3, 4, 5 children. You understand what I'm saying? So, but in spite of all of that, you're looking past that, and because you know the person that you fell in love with
Yeah. Yeah. But I
and
think,
started loving, and then is in love with.
yeah, I think where we go wrong at, and y'all could correct me, or we agree on things and we agree to disagree. But I
Mhm.
think that a lot of the times when we going through this process of dating and vetting, is that sometimes we in love with the idea of being in love, and so therefore
Yes,
we go on ahead and we take that
yes,
next step into that connection. And see, we're not really connected, really, but we in love with the idea of being in love. We haven't yet tested the connection yet. You know what I mean? Like, really, that connection that has brought you two together, that's going to solidify that relationship. You want to make that connection first. What is that connection? You have to know what that is before you ultimately as they say, put the ring on it, sort of thing. I think the idea of being in love is really something that gets us into a lot of trouble. The idea of being in love, the idea of being married, the idea of someone wanting to take that next step with you. And it's not just on the side part of the women; it's on the side of the men too. Sometimes, as Dawn was saying this, you get into this whole physical thing. You look at the face, you look at the hair, you look at the body, sweet demeanor or whatever. Same thing with the guy. I don't care if he snag a tooth, he have 2.5 teeth or whatever, the pot belly, whatever it may look like. I mean, like, people fall in love with what they or they want what they want. Let's put it that way. But when you start peeling back the layers, and there are layers there, and if you live long enough, 35, there are layers under those 35 years. And sometimes you got to start really digging in as you get older. You figure that out, though, right? When you're young, you might not know, and you might do. Maybe they're smarter than we are. But at the end of the day, I think that falling in love is not like loving. And then the other part of the idea of the wonderful idea of being in love gets us too. And we have different reasons for why we feel like, this is it for me. I got, if I don't grab this one, and we settle. We settle, we say we love this person, and we settle, we get married, and we move on without really knowing that, at the end of the day, if it's going to be that permanency, as Tawny was saying, is going to lead to that kind of love that speaks of permanency. And it can be a toss up, really. It can be a
that's why
toss
you
up.
have to make sure that when it comes to being in love, you have to make sure that you have to check yourself. Am I in love with the idea
Yeah, I think of
of
being in
being in a
love,
relationship, or
Yeah.
am I in love with the person?
the person. Yeah, and if
I
it's the
think
person,
sometimes that's where a lot of people go wrong.
yeah,
They
Yeah.
yeah,
fall
yeah.
because that person come into their life, they're initially attracted to that person, and that person is initially attracted to them. They
Mm-hmm.
fall in love with that idea
Mm-hmm.
of the person being in love with them.
Mhm.
More so, you have to really question yourself. Am I in love with this person, or am I in love with the idea of being in love with someone?
But now that's another question that I don't know if Astrid wants to answer, because I know she's been pretty quiet, but then that's another question. When you're asking,
Actually, I was gonna say that
well, I didn't ask the question yet.
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say,
Oh my God.
I like what Dawn is saying, and I like where it's going. And I'm like, okay, so now, people watching this, they're like, okay, so but how do I know? Like, you asked the question, like, okay, well, am I in love with this person really? Or am I just in love with the idea of being in love because I watched like
follow up with you after that
movies, and I'm just so caught up in the whole princess and the prince. Like, how do I know that this is really? So that's the question. Like, how can you even tell that it's not just a fantasy fairy tale thing or something really real?
That's a good question.
Okay. I will have to say.
So you don't have to answer that question, Astrid, if you have something else you want to say. But let's just put that
by okay, my opinion of love and being in love. Love, like we said before, like it was said before, can be conditional, and it has to do with so many things. Like, I love movies. So, and there's particular movies that I absolutely love. I can sit down and watch them every single time they come on TV because I just love it. I love everything that it's showing. Some people love their pets. They love their dogs. They, they feel some sense of fulfillment when they have a pet. To go outside, whatever it is that brings them that type of emotion or experience. Some people love cars and they will invest in getting cars. Some people love houses and they will go to the extreme to get money to build, these magnificent houses. Some people love art. They go for paintings and different things. So to me, love, that is love. You love your children, you love your parents, like it was said, you love your co-workers, that co-worker that you felt like that connection, like that chemistry. Being in love is the purest form of love. And it's a more lasting and more enduring form. And by that, I mean that when you are in love with somebody, there is nothing that you won't do for that person. That's the one time that you get to the place where you are selfless. You will do whatever it takes to make that your mate happy. You will do whatever it takes to make your mate comfortable. You will do whatever it is to fulfill your mate's dreams and their goals. That's what being in love is. It's putting yourself, behind, not behind, but giving your all for that person, for their happiness, to see that person smile. I've heard people say, "Oh my God, every time she smiles, I get butterflies." Or she would say, whenever I see him walking in, just watching his physique, I just melt. You understand? And my day just gets better. When you're in love, like Chrissy said, you want to be with that person all the time. You can't stop thinking about that person. Every time you turn around, you want, just hearing them on the phone. You ever heard of people say, we were on the phone for 3 hours, and you'd be like, what?
And it felt like 10 minutes.
And it was like, exactly. And some people just even breathe. They're just breathing. They're not even talking, but just that thing of having them there or hearing them. You understand? Yes. That's what I said. Being in love is a more lasting form of love. You can, we can walk to the altar and exchange vows. And there's people that even write their own vows about the person, about the experiences that during the dating period, they were able to collect data about that person. When you have that type of experience and you see people even cry at weddings, you know, because it gives them that joy. Oh my God, I'm gonna be with this person. I can't wait to live my life. And they always say before you go into a relationship that you got to be a whole person. But how is it that when you fall in love, all of a sudden you were fine by yourself? You went on trips, you went to the movie, you went everywhere, and the minute you meet that person with people call soulmate, all of a sudden you can't be without that person. I gotta see that person. I gotta hear him. I gotta call him. I gotta text him. I gotta because it's like I said, it's a more lasting, more durable way. It's a form of expression, and then it's the feeling of how that person makes you feel when you're in their presence, how they treat you, how they speak to you, how they compliment you, how they arouse, you know, that emotion in you that gives you that sense of joy and happiness. So whenever they're not in your presence, you'll be like, oh my God, I just feel like I need to be with that person. I'm reminded of the story in the Bible of Jacob. And if you really think about it, Jacob saw Rachel and fell in love with her to the point that he went to her father and he said, I want to marry her. We all know the story, how it happened, and that, you know, back in those days, the older daughter had to be married first. So of course they tricked him, and you know, he found out the next day that he wasn't with her. But when the father-in-law said to him, if you really want her, you can work another 7 years. Just to think that that love that he had for her was so strong that he was willing to work for this man another 7 years just to have her in his life. And the Bible said that he loved her more than he loved Leah. He loved her from the very beginning. So there is a difference between just loving, because love can be conditional, but being in love, I think that all conditions go out the window. I just think that, then that's just my opinion. I feel like, you know what? That's when sacrifices come in, because if the person gets sick, you know, I've seen people when their significant other, especially when they've been long and knitted for so long in a marriage of 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, it's very hard if a lot of people know that when one dies, usually the other one don't stay that long. And it's because their partner is gone. That person that they enjoyed life with, they enjoy doing things with, has gone.
I think I like what Ashley said though. I think that to have that, you can feel an automatic connection to a person. You can automatically just feel that, you know, but you still had to go through the process, right? Talk about Jacob as far as it, you know, relates to Rachel. But I think that whether a person is sick, whether they lose their job, whether they're struggling with something else on the other side of their family that you married into, there are all kinds of reasons that may challenge that individual and ultimately put a challenge on the relationship itself. And because you are so in love with that person, you hang in there through whatever it is that struggle poses to that person. There is no way we're going to talk about this subject and at 8 o'clock, you know, the subject is going to be exhausted, because it's not. But I do believe that the question that Tawny was asking, how do you know? I do think that when you're talking to a person, when you're getting to know a person, they give you clues. It's like we talked about before. data. When you're talking to a person, you find out what their values are, what their passions are, what are your future plans, you know, these sorts of things, questions, and ultimately they're open-ended questions because you want them to give you a definitive answer. And so when they're giving the answer, it tells you something about the thought process of the person that you're talking to. You get an insight to what that person is like. And maybe they have all the qualities that you're looking for. And then you might go a little bit deeper and start digging about, you know, how they handle emotions, you know, and you might pose questions to them about how they handle things emotionally. But at the end of the day, you're going to pick a person that you ultimately believe is the person for you. And that's why it's important to ask all spiritual questions. I mean, that minute I've been alive now, that minute that I've been living, these are questions that I think about now. You want to know about the person. You want to know about their spiritual life. You want to know about their financial life. You want to know about their personal life. You don't necessarily have to learn about their past relationships, but it may ultimately come into a conversation. But you get the data. And after you get the data, you make a decision. You pick and choose what you want and what you don't. You know, you don't keep entertaining a person that you know you don't want anything to do with.
Exactly.
Right? You stop it right there. You're like, nope, this ain't, no. You can tell by certain questions, though, this is not for me. You know, when you cut it off, you don't continue to entertain it. But at the end of the day, you give it that time frame to see, is this the person? It ain't going to happen in 6 months, and it may not happen within a year. But after a year or so, you start getting some real definite what you want to do type of thought processes. But you just want to really, you know, the things that you want, you put that out there. The things that you're looking for, you want to put it out there. And you may not get 100% of everything, because none of us are 100% everything. With different people, different personalities, different characteristics. But, you know, you find out what complements your personality, and vice versa.
So you know, that is the litmus test for knowing whether
I don't think it's the litmus test. I don't think it's the litmus test. I think it's a start. I think it's a start. You ultimately going to make the decision. There's no real roadmap to, you know what, like the radar goes, yep, this is the person. But I'll tell you one thing, you will get clues and you will get red flags.
Right.
You see a red flag, you do not run through the red flag. You address the red flag. When the flag, it's like football. When they throw that flag on the field, the ref stops, he makes a call. He calls it what it is, a thing. Right. He calls a thing a thing. You need to call a thing a thing. You know, you might be right there at the goal line. You might be at the goal line, 2 and goal, and a flag is on the field.
Oh,
right? The whole game stops.
But you know what, Chrissy? When you can have chemistry with different people. You can have chemistry with one person this week. You can have chemistry with somebody else. That don't mean that you're in love with them. There is things that maybe this person has certain things that you like, and then next week, like, oh my God, you know, that's why love, being in love takes time, and it's a place of maturity that you reach also, because you already know, like you said, Chrissy, we've been here for a minute. So now at our age, we know what we want now. We're not negotiating with anybody. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is where I would like to see this thing going. And if they come in and, like they say, you know, fellowship, be with you and take you for who you are, then okay, let's see where this is going. When you're younger, you fall in love with everybody. You fall in love with your teacher at school. You fall in love with the star athletes. All the girls are going after the star athletes. You fall in love with, you know, with, you just, like Dawn said, with the idea of love. But it's not really love. I mean, they have people who have been married for a long time, and like they said, they were high school sweethearts, or they started from junior high or whatever. Even though it started as a puppy love, it grew. It was watered, it was cultivated, you know, and as they got together, you know, they started like falling more and more in love with each other. Then you have the flip side with the ones who, as they grow and they mature and they get older, they started finding out that, you know what, you're not really what I wanted in life, you know, and you started realizing, wait a minute, I in love with the idea, like John said, of getting married, because this person don't have nothing in common with me or with the things that mean a lot to me.
Mhm.
So we have to really assess all of these things. You know, am I in love, really in love with the person because of the benefits that I can get? Because some girl can be in love with a guy because the guy buys her stuff, takes her to the restaurant, you know, they can be in, they say, well, I love him, but is it really love, or is it, you know, a fulfillment of a need?
Yeah.
Love is, being in love is an outpouring of what love is. Like
Yeah.
Tawny had said, that reservoir that comes out and
Mhm.
it overflows. It's
Yeah.
an overflow of love.
Yeah.
And love is an overflow of the love that you feel. And it comes with sacrifice, it comes with commitment, it comes with loyalty, it comes with honesty. When you're in love with somebody, I don't care if they take you from here to Africa. You know what? That love that you feel for that person, you will always have that in the back of your mind or in your heart, that you won't even betray that person. You won't do anything um to make that person feel pain or hurt in any way or cause them that pain, because you're in love with that person and you're always going to be thinking about their well-being. You're going to
Yes,
be thinking
absolutely.
about, I can't do that. I don't care how many beautiful women come in front of a man.
Mm.
When he's really in love with his wife,
Yes.
there is no, like you said, Bo Derek, or there is no, what's the other one?
Halle Berry.
Line of it? Halle Berry, or whatever that's gonna come in front of him that can make him, turn away from his wife. He gonna say, no, I'm sorry. I know you look good. You're fine, but I am
I
married.
like that you said
And I
that.
love, my wife. When that's the difference between loving and being in love. When
Yes.
you're in love with the person, you look for the well-being of the person. You will not do anything that that would harm the person in any shape, form, or way.
Beautiful point, because I think that at the end of the day, you don't, if you're in a union with somebody that you and he are in love, you don't let nothing come from outside to erode your relationship. You don't let nothing
Exactly.
from outside
Nothing or no
penetrate
one.
to come in to deteriorate that relationship. You and that individual may go through something and you can overcome those things. But if you let something inside the relationship, you let some foreign thing in the relationship, a third party of whatever sort it may be, I don't know. But if you let it in, then that's a whole nother story. You're challenging yourself by letting something break the union, whether it's a woman, whether you just don't have enough time, you at work all the time or whatever, and you're not giving that person, they're there alone by themselves. You're not giving that part. They need that. You need to have that connection as well. So if you allow yourself to work 99 hours a week and you're not spending time with your wife, just letting her know that I love you, you care about their well-being, as Ashley was saying, you care about what they're thinking, what they're feeling, you try to avoid hurting, you try to avoid damaging in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You are committed to that person and their well-being, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, financial, and you want to protect them by any means necessary.
Exactly.
But I think too, one other thought that this is my last thought, and that is this, is that I start thinking now, rather than, well, there's two sides to it. One, I want to know, am I marriage material? That's number one. Yes. Before I want to know if a man is husband material, I need to know if I'm married, if I'm marriage material. And then if I'm marriage material, then what makes me marriage material, so that I can ask the pertinent questions or look for the things that I need to look for to find out if he is marriage material. That's just my little, like I said, that's just my opinion. Because a lot of times we say, you know, we're looking for this, we're looking for that. But then at the same token, are you ready? Are you prepared for what you're actually looking for? Are you prepared for what you're looking for? Are you prepared for what?
Well, a lot of these, a lot of what you ladies are bringing up really kind of overlap, because we know the original topic is the difference between loving and being in love, and we realize that we obviously have a lot of different thoughts and experiences around being in love, what that is, what that isn't. As you were talking, as different, you know, points were being made, I was writing down different words like infatuation. Like I wrote down like infatuation, because Ashley was bringing up the point, well, when you're young, you fall in love with this person this week, and next week you fall in love with that person, da da da. And we know, like, we're using the term in love, but we're kind of like trying to define it. So we know that it's not so whimsical like that. So that is more of the infatuation side.
Yes.
The lust, that's the infatuation. Or maybe that is like how Dawn was saying earlier, the whole idea of falling in love with the idea of being in love, or falling in love with the idea of falling in love, and not necessarily actually being in love, right? And then the falling out of love, because, you know, it's so hard to talk about this without talking about marriage and talking about all the different things that can possibly happen in a marriage, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So you do start off with to me, I believe that most people, when they do decide to get married, they are thinking that they're going to spend the rest of their life with this person, and they don't know what monkey wrench is going to be thrown in the works that could, you know, trouble the waters, right? It's just to keep it simple. So, so now I'm thinking, this is another question that came to my mind, and anybody can jump on it. When you are, I'm thinking back to what Chrissy said about when you face something and you get to the other side of it, that's how you know that you're in love. The only thing that troubles me about that is I don't get to the other side of it, for whatever reason. Let's say what the thing was offensive. Okay, we're just gonna keep it really pretty and say it was very offensive. It was deeply offensive. It was deeply wounding to me, you know, to whoever's involved in this relationship. Now, if I fall out of love with you as a result of that offense, is it safe to say that I was never in love with you in the first place?
I don't think it's safe to say that you were never in love with them.
No.
But in offense, I mean, like, in offense, that has to be.
I'm trying to keep it pretty.
Yeah. Okay, you try to keep it pretty.
I mean, okay, so we're talking about marriages. So with marriage, you have vows, you have promises, you have vows, you have expectations. So if you're a husband or a wife who maybe beat your husband or your wife, or if you're a husband or a wife who cheated on your husband or your wife, if you are a husband or a wife who just egregious stuff that, you know, like, this is a person who I believe loved me, and this is not something that I ever would anticipate that they would do. This is like a deep wounding.
Betrayal.
And a betrayal. So, and because I love myself, okay, I'm not going to necessarily sit and be okay with what you did. Now, granted, agree, you can, if you can get over the mountains, right? You can say, okay, we're going to climb this mountain together. We're going to get over this mountain, but it definitely takes the two of you.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm going to climb up this mountain by myself and try to drag you behind me, especially if you're the one who did the thing. You know what I mean?
But
so,
like I said, though, before you even go on with that thought, I said you don't bring anything outside of the relationship to deteriorate that relationship. I just said that. See,
no,
there are
yes,
things,
you did,
when you let something, when you're getting to the other side of something, that has to be something that's personal between you and him. It could be sickness. It could, because you take those vows, and for better, for worse, for sickness and in health, you know, for richer, for poorer, all those things. Anything within that framework, you know, you can get to the other side. And there may be, as I think it was Astrid was just saying, the Halle Berrys and all that. They're Denzel Washingtons too, you know, and Idris Elba's too, you know, those good looking, they're out there,
Someone
right?
said
You know, they got some good looking men out there. But you're not gonna go and cheat on your husband, right? Because you got a Denzel Washington or Idris Elba's out there, right? So I'm just saying, I'm saying for the sake of time though, like you can get past anything, right? Ain't nobody blind. Men ain't blind. Women ain't blind. We see other people that look good. I mean, you know, but we don't bring that into our relationship. We don't start.
You know, I'm not talking about just cheating. It could be alcoholism. Maybe you became an alcoholic and then you started to beat the husband or the wife. That's something that's deeply between the two of you.
It is.
So the alcohol is the thing that came in between you. But there's always going to be something that's between.
Well, it doesn't have to always be something, Tawny.
Okay. If it's sickness, that's something. If it's alcoholism, that's something. If it's another man or another woman, that's something. If it's
that's different.
Well, that's still something.
Okay. Another woman or another man is bringing something into the relationship. Alcoholism is a choice. It can be a disease. It can
be. So is the other man or the other woman?
I'm sorry?
Too. The other man.
Yeah, it is. But a bottle over a woman, right?
There's still choices.
Wait, no, there are choices to either person. But you can say, honey, you got a real problem. You got an issue. Let's work on it. You're going to do what you need. And at the end of the day, he makes a decision that he loves, as Astrid was saying, or as we all been saying, he's in love with his wife. You're either going to give up the bottle or you're going to give up the wife, right? The same way you made the choice to get into the bottle. I know alcohol is a monster. I know this for a fact. But now, was he drinking alcohol? Was he an alcoholic? Before you got married, did you make the decision to marry him while he was drinking?
Why does all that matter?
I'm just saying it does matter.
I want to know why. Yeah, why does all that matter?
If you know that if you sat down with a man and he drank a fifth of vodka sitting there with you, and that's not a flag on the field at the second yard line, I ain't never seen a flag on the field before. So I would question that. If every time you do something you have to have a drink, I'm like, no, something's wrong with that picture. Like there's nobody that drinks like that much
or do drugs
or do drugs or alcohol or something. You try to see the flags on the field. Sickness is not a choice, right? If a person gets sick, they didn't choose to get sick. So I can see it differently. If a man
can attest to that.
With another woman outside of his relationship, he made a decision to bring something into that relationship. That is adultery, fornication. Fornication.
A new word today.
But I'm just saying, like, even in those instances, now I don't know, I'm not the one, because that's where we cut things off with Chris, right? Ain't no cheating. But I'm saying some women would choose to stay together and give it another shot.
I was about to say that, Chrissy. I was about to say that.
They give them another chance.
It's an individual thing. It's an individual thing. Because what I'm willing to put up with or what I'm willing to work through might not be the same thing that Astrid is willing to work through or Chrissy is willing to work through. It's really an individual thing, Tawny.
That is my whole point about the whole being in love thing, because it is very individual. Like, I could be the wife that says, I'll stay with my cheating husband. I could be the wife that says, I'll stay with my alcoholic husband. I could be the wife that says, I'll stay with my workaholic husband. You know, you can decide. I remember meeting, when I was in the married ministry, I remember meeting a woman who said, I will not leave my husband no matter what. He could cheat on me. I am not leaving him. I am not breaking this vow, right? So she's that woman. So they're really, to me, again, there's still the question of, okay, am I really, I kind of forgot how I phrased it initially, but, you know, the whole idea of knowing that you're really in love with that person because you got on to the other side of whatever the issue is. I think that that's great. And I think that that's very beautiful. And I think that that's something like, okay, our love stood the test of time. Our love stood these trials and tribulations. But then I'm still thinking, okay, so, but if I decided, okay, I'm not going to stay with this person because of this thing, then that doesn't necessarily mean, well, I don't know, you already said to me, yes, that's not true. It doesn't mean that I was never in love with them to begin with. It just means I fell out of love with them because of this thing.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
if
I remember. I
everybody
remember. I
knows
said
what kind of love
initially that
is,
it's
but I
conditional.
didn't say that that means that you're in love. What I said was it's another level of being in love, because there are things that will challenge a relationship.
Yes.
Mhm.
It could be. I don't know what that thing might be. It could be. It could be another woman trying to get in,
Anything.
and the man is constantly throwing off these women that are always throwing themselves on them for whatever
Mhm.
reason,
Mhm.
right? And he got past that, she got past that. It could be a number of things that could happen to challenge a relationship. When you get on the other side of that, I'm
Grace, can I
saying
just
those
say
things
something?
that really,
Said that's
really
what being in
challenge.
love is.
Can I just say
No,
something?
that's not being in love. I said you get to loving,
Yeah.
and then you realize that you're in love with a person,
Right.
but that level of being in love is really can get to
It's
another
deeper.
level.
It's deeper.
When you
But that's what
go
you said. You
get
said it was
on the other side of some stuff.
the
Let me
I've,
say,
I've
let me
literally,
say
I'm gonna
something.
say, I've
Let me-
literally heard people say this. I've literally heard men say this. Man, when after you know what, I realized that when we were going through this thing, like you talk about the falling in love, they said that I thought that because we were at opposite sides of the house, we were going through our stuff. I questioned the love. But when we came through it and we started to talk about it and we got through it, I realized that I loved her, or I loved him all the more.
Yes.
They got on the other side of whatever that thing was. You know, they got married because they loved each other. They fell in love along the way in a greater measure. But when you get that real struggle that you're going through and you're willing to, as Astrid was said, because of the self-care, because you love this person, you sit down and you stop and you think about it and you start examining things and you say, you know what?
Yes.
I really love her. I not only love her, but I'm in love with her. And I don't want to be without her. That's
Yes.
at the end of the day, that's what you end up saying. Because when you walk in to put the keys in the door and she's not in the house, you want her to be there. And
Yes.
she could be at work. But you realize when I walk in the door, what would my life be without this person walking in the door with me? What would it be like if I showed up and she wasn't there? I don't want to lose that.
Mm-hmm.
You can get to that in love to another level. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's the litmus test to prove it. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, it will strengthen that love and it will prove ultimately that you are in love on another level. And that's how you get to the 10, 15, 20, 30-year mark, 40-year
Okay.
mark. You
I was
don't get
gonna
that
say-
without being in love with a person. You don't
Yeah,
get there
I
without
was
some
gonna
struggle.
say that when you're in love with the person, and even you have to realize that we all flawed, and there may be times that one person or sometimes even both might step out of the marriage, but it's deep rooted issues that make people do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's alcohol, whether, like we said, sex, whether it's pornography, whether it's different things, deep rooted issues that sometimes people bring into a relationship. But the love, like the Bible said, covers a multitude of sin. So when people are in love with the other person, like I said before, they will do everything in their power to make sure that that person is comfortable, that that person is happy. What will make a man go out and work to pay the bills, to provide for his family, for the wife and for the children? What will make a man go out and take the garbage? What will make a man that if he sees his wife working late, that he will start tidying up, that he will start taking care of the children? It's because, not because he's a man and he will say like, you know what, that's her job. It's love. It's that unconditional love. It's that giving love. It's that sacrificial love that will make you do whatever. Like for me, I part of my marriage was, there was betrayal in it, not on my part. But at what point one of the things that made me make the decision was because when somebody really is in love with you, they will make adjustments.
Yeah.
They will
Girl.
make adjustments to be with you. When you see that there's no respect, that there's no more loyalty, that there is no more commitment there, that your feelings, your values, your morals are no longer important to that person, then there's the marriage covenant is gone. Because sometimes I have known of couples where the man went out or the woman went out and they were able to work things out. And it was a moment of weakness that they had, or whatever deep-rooted issue that they were struggling with. And they were able to you know, not only to ask for forgiveness, but turn their life around, because they realized that what they have done to that person, that I can't say I love this person and I can't believe I did this to this person. So they will do whatever it takes to not fall into that place again. They will be a little bit more careful. They will be a little bit more concerned, and they will be a little bit more loving towards the person. Because they realize that, you know what, I didn't only hurt her, but I hurt myself. The image of our marriage, the image of our love, everything that comes into place. When somebody literally sits down and looks at the whole picture, and they realize, you know what, my actions were selfish. Because when you betray somebody, it's a selfish act. If it is a selfish act, you wasn't considering the other person's feelings. You wasn't considering how the other person was gonna. You can't just go and say, you know what I do in the outside of the house is none of your business. That's not the truth, because it goes both ways. I can go out and do the same thing. You understand? And some people do go out and do the same thing, and they be like, I'm gonna pay them back. But where is the love in that part? Where is the commitment? Where is the honesty? Where is the truth? Where is the loyalty? If it's not there, then you're not in love with the person. Like Dawn said, you might be in love with the idea of having somebody, or having somebody in your life, of having somebody to come home to because you were lonely, and now you felt like, you know what, I'm tired of being by myself, not having somebody to talk to. You understand?
Worse,
or you're tired of talking to yourself all the time, and you say,
even,
you know what?
Even worse,
let me go and find somebody.
You could be in love with the thing that you built. You could be in love with the life that you built with this person.
Lifestyle, yes.
Not even the
lifestyle. It can be the lifestyle too.
Yes.
Like the money.
Absolutely.
You like the lifestyle. You know, a lot of women stay with men because they feel like, you know what else am I going to do? I like the lifestyle. I like going on the yacht. I like, you know, flying on the plane. Whatever. And some women will do that, and they know that the man is not faithful, that the man is not trustworthy, you know, and they go through a lot of stuff. I mean, I have women that comes to patients that come to the hospital with all different type of diseases because the man went out exploring. You know, like Dora the Explorer, all over the place. And they came home with gifts, bearing gifts, you know, that was detrimental to your health.
Gifts that keep on giving.
Exactly. This the season. So I'm just saying, like, when you do things like that and you don't consider the other person, then that, to me, is not love. That you probably have in love with the idea of having that person there, but you're not in love because love doesn't hurt you. Jesus took the pain of sin, the sting of it, the weight of it all on his shoulder because he loved us. So we won't have to carry it. Like they say, he carried the weight of the world upon his shoulder. And I know that he did it because, and he's still carrying us when we're broken, when we hurt, when we've been betrayed. He's still carrying it. He suffered betrayal. He went through all the things that we as humans can go through in some shape, form, or way, and to let us know that if he overcame it, that we can. But have he not done that? He did it because of love. His agape love. That's why he did it. He loved us so. And he's still loving us, even through it all, through our sometimes feeling like a nut and sometimes don't. He still loves us. Amen. You know, with all our flaws, he still loves us. with us not changing day by day, he still love us. With us trying to figure out life, he still love us. So
But at the
love,
end of the day, we're human beings,
to me,
so
is the purest form and an enduring, lasting, not only a feeling, not only an emotion, but a giving of oneself. It's a lasting thing.
but Tawny asked a question in regards to being in love, or if there are things that can make us fall out of love. One of the things that we always have to take into consideration, and I've often said this, is that I can't make any promises that I would never hurt or upset you in any way whatsoever. That's not possible.
Right.
So sometimes we have to be realistic and understand that, that yes, there are times when our significant other might, hurt us or, do things or say things to us, that, that make us kind of feel away. And I think sometimes, like Chrissy says, that can be also a testing ground to see if we really love that, love that person. I'll give you a perfect example. When Eugene and I were dating, I remember one time, and I think Astrid might be familiar with this. David told Eugene to say something or, to me, or do something to me to like really upset me. And then if I still decide to be with him, then the person, you remember that, Astrid?
Yeah.
Wow. Did he do it? Did Eugene do it?
Yes, he did. He did.
Yes.
I can't remember what he said. It was something that he said, actually, not actually, it wasn't action. It's something that he said. And I was so upset to a point, I got to a point, where I was in tears. And then when he saw how upset I really was, he was like, babe, I'm sorry, He said, I was just testing you or something like that. And then he told me afterward it was David that told him to do that.
I've been so mad at that.
But
Yeah.
I was like, listen, life's got enough trouble of its own. I don't need you.
But listen, but
Exactly.
Tawny, you know how your male cousins are, right? You know how crazy they can be at times.
The playful, just give you.
Yes.
Oh
the ones that drive you crazy. But I will say this, that when it comes to questioning yourself or evaluating the relationship, that's when you start doing the weighing of the pros and the cons.
Yes.
As bad as I might have felt at that particular moment, all the good feelings and what he did for me and how he was to me totally outweighed what he had said at that particular time. Even though, like I said, I was really upset.
Yes.
I mean, not to a point where I would say, like deeply hurt or like scarred for life. It wasn't one of the situation, but in that particular moment, I was really upset, like I said, to a point of tears. But what he said didn't really make me got to a point where it's like, you know what? Okay, my God, I can't marry this person, or I can't be with this person. It was just for a moment. And also, like I said, because of how he was and who he was and how he treated me and how he was to me, that far outweighed that particular situation where, I was upset. And I'm not gonna lie, there are other times that, he made me upset, throughout our, relationship, but not to a point where it was like, oh my God, I don't love this man anymore. I can't be with him. It's unbearable. You always have to evaluate your relationship, not even just with your spouse, but even with other people in your life, because even your best friend is going to make you mad at one point or the other.
It's boundaries. There's boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Sets with ourselves, whether we know it or not, and then we know when someone crosses that boundary, and we say, okay, this is the line that I drew, and you crossed it, so that's when it's done. But yeah, a lot of times you can go right up to that line. You can get right there, and it's all good. But the minute you go, it's like, okay, we're done.
And I believe that it's everybody's breaking point and everybody's level of tolerance is different. Totally. Like you have some women you have some women or some men where the spouse may cheat on them once or twice and no problem.
Yeah.
Or multiple times, no problem. I'm going to work it out. I'm going to stick it out with this person,
Yes.
and we're going to go through this together.
Yes.
And like Krista said, they stay together for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. Then you have some folks that person might cheat once,
one time,
or may hit them only one time.
One time for one time.
yeah, and that's it for them.
That's it. Yeah.
I want a divorce. I'm not trying to go see no counselor. I'm not doing this.
Third time to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. I want out totally.
Yeah.
So I think the question you asked that, how do you know? I think it's also the same for how do you know that you are in love? You have to be the one to start putting the tally, start tallying. You might want to have two sides, the pros and cons side. The pros and cons side.
Right. Yeah.
This is how it makes me feel. This is how she makes me feel. Blah 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 blah. This is what she has to offer. This is his or her values. Blah blah blah. I think it's a little bit. I mean, some things is a given. Some things are given. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're not going to be with somebody who, like you said, who without a shadow of a doubt is an abuser. Even when you're dating the person, whether they physically abuse you, verbally abuse you, emotionally abuse you. Right. Some things is like. It's not happening.
It really should just be like a deal breaker. Some things are just
There's some things that are like it's
like no matter what. Like yes, you have a good job. Yes, you come from a good family. Yes, you buy me flowers. Yes, you open the door. But you lied to me and every other day. Like it does. This list could have 10 things, and this con list could just have one. But that one thing could be so egregious that it's like
exactly. It's up to you what you are willing to tolerate, or what you're willing to put up with, or what you're willing, or like you said, the person might, is a good provider. The person, is very organized. The person is very, good with money. They're financially stable. Blah 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 blah. Right. But then, they might have that one con.
Yeah.
Is that one con something that you're willing to work with, and live with, and deal with? Or is it something that you can maybe work through, or the person can get over, if you were to go to counseling or something like that, you know what I mean? So I think when it comes to knowing if you're in love and if you really want to spend the rest of your life with that person, sometimes it's an individual thing, because everybody has their, like I said, their preferences, their desires, and things like that. So at the end of the day, it's really up to you. So I can say that, like for me personally, what made me decide that, wow, this is the person that I want to spend the rest of my life, or should I say the person that I want to marry, is based on how he made me feel, based on how he treated me, based on his values. He's not perfect, because Eugene was a prankster and stuff like that. He liked to play jokes on you and things like that, and then see how you react. So there are times when he would say things to me and he would see how I react, and then he would do something else and he would make me laugh. I'll give a perfect example. I came on one day and then we had this blue chair in our room, and I came and I was talking to him, and he said something to me that made me so upset that I was sitting there, that I was folding my arms and had the screw face and everything. And then he turned around and he looked at me and he started singing, "I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. If I have to beg and plead." And Tawny, I just fell out laughing, and whatever it is that made me upset, it was gone instantly. You know what I mean?
So good. You're
yeah. It
feel
was
like your
gone.
spouse has got to make you laugh. If your spouse,
exactly.
It's gotta make you laugh.
Yeah. So then he said, "Babe, I was just playing with you and stuff like that." And I said to him, I said, "You know what? I don't like humor.
Yeah.
Huh?
He has a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so sometimes because he liked to tease and stuff like that, he would make me upset. But then there's something that he would say and do that would override it, that, I don't even remember what, he said or did that made me maybe upset. So like I said, it's an individual thing.
Yeah.
You have to pick and choose, and like I said, weigh the pros and the cons that will make you, fall in love with this person, love this person, and then continue to be in love, with the person. Like Chrissy said, it goes, to a different level. that, no matter, like you said, the trials and the testings, that comes, that is that, well, you have to make sure that, I mentioned, that is no fault of their own. Because there are things that happen in your life, like you say, you may lose your job, that's no fault of your own. You may get sick, that's no fault of your own. You know what I mean? You might do other things that's no fault of your own. So you have to, that will make you like, wow, this really tested our relationship, but I am still in love with this person. I still love this person. I'm still in love with this person.
And I think that's before we close, because we like way
Yeah,
over.
we went like
I would say
That's
this.
what
I
happens
would
when
say
the
this.
topic is really good.
I think that when you're really seriously dating a person, when you're really considering in your mind if he's the one or if she's the one, these are the kinds of things that you should have in mind before you get married. You should understand what your boundaries are. He should understand, she should understand the kinds of things that are really like crossing the line. I'm not saying that it will preclude you from getting past it or getting over it or whatever, but I do think that there are things that you would say that, you just, these are things that I just, for me as a person, and it depends on how you say it too. Like, I just don't agree with the whole cheating thing, because I feel like, I'm just saying, if you're having a conversation with a guy, because if you feel like you want to be with somebody else, you need to go on ahead and be with somebody else. If you're not ready to settle down with a person and you really feel like, why cheat when you could just walk away and go and be with the person that you want to be with? There's no need for that. If a guy is seriously entertaining, or a woman, a relationship that's supposed to last forever, and that's what marriage is. It's supposed to be a forever thing. But if you feel like you haven't gotten stuff out of your system, then you're not ready for that kind of commitment. Neither of you, woman or man, you're not ready for that. And at the same token, you have to understand that even in a relationship where you're not married, you understand the challenges of a relationship that is not under a commitment. That's not under a contract. You know what that looks like. And it splits people up. You go your way, he go his way. So if you're going to that before you actually say yes, that being married does not mean the end of all issues that will evolve in a relationship. There are going to be times where you're going to go through something, and you should know that that is not if it's going to happen, it is when it's going to happen. You don't expedite it. You don't push the envelope on it. You don't try to make it happen. Something wrong go in the relationship, but it will happen. Things will happen. Emotions might get a little raw. You may get into an argument. I know me and Perry, when we got into arguments, I would say, listen, I need to go and walk away and think for a minute. Let me gather myself. Let me calm down. And if I stayed in my calm down mode too long, he'll come back and say, even if it was my fault, he'll come back and say, Chris, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, babe. I'm really sorry. But I don't like this feeling between us. Da, 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 da. He would say that just so that the peace could be reinstituted back into the relationship. He would apologize because he didn't want to have that separation thing going on in the house for too long. So
he values you.
You have to understand that, like, it goes back to Astrid thought. You care about the well-being of that individual. But at the end of the day, marriage is, as they say, even when you're taking your vows, you don't take it lightly. You don't enter into it lightly. This is a very serious commitment. And if you are having conversations, these are things that you might talk about. You don't just bring up, well, let me see how you feel about this. No, in dating, questions will come up. You'll be like, well, how you feel about this? And da, 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 da. You have conversations. You talk about it. You don't want to find out 10 months down the road that he was married 10 times already.
Oh, Jesus.
Or, whatever it is that he's been doing. I'm just saying, because sometimes we take things for granted. You want to know something, ask the questions. You see the flag on the field, what is the call? Call it what it is. Yeah. If it's a red flag, it's saying stop, then you stop. You don't run through it. You don't run through a red light. You stop and you ask questions. So the idea of, like I said before, sometimes we're in love with the idea of being in love, and it does not suffice for love itself. So you need to ask yourself the question, What are my motives behind this? You know,
Say
where
that.
could this lead me? You look at the big picture, then you'll start getting some feedback for yourself. You even before you start talking to the guy on serious terms, you already, you know, you're asking yourself the questions because you know this is serious. This is a serious commitment that I'm about to make, or even thinking about making. All right, I'm done. I'm just
All
saying.
right.
All right, Miss Astrid.
Okay, there you have it. We were trying to discuss, but this was so good. The topic of loving and being in love. Next week, we are going to speak upon God's unconditional love.
Mm.
And the main topic that it's surrounding all these subtopics is what love got to do with it. So we hope that you enjoyed it and that something that was said here was able to give you a better view of love on being in love. Also, we have a YouTube channel and we would like you to subscribe. And by you subscribing, you get the privilege and the honor to watch all our previous podcasts. And they all are very good. I have to say it because not because this is, the podcast that God told me to do, but I enjoy rewatching my own podcast. And there's times that I'd be like, oh my God, like, these are some amazing ladies. And every podcast that we did, everybody that was there was honest, was truth. And one of the things I have to say about love and being in love, you can love something, but to the point like a kid for Christmas, they love a toy and they throw it away. The feeling is gone. But real love, being in love, that feeling does not go away.
Doesn't fade
And
at all.
it doesn't fade. It, like I said,
Hmm.
it's the purest form of a lasting um, emotion or feeling. And you won't do anything to that person that that would hurt them or harm them in any shape, form, or way. Or even in your conversation, you will be able to come back and tell the person, you know what, I'm sorry, my words were harsh towards you, and that shows that you really care about the person. If you, like Chrissy said, if you're not ready for the relationship, then you need to make some adjustments. You need to do a soul search. You need to do a heart search and find out whether you are loving the person or really in love with the person. If you're in love with the person, you won't have somebody waiting for a long time for you to make a decision whether you want to be with the person. You won't be having the person um, waiting for you for a long time, while you explore the world.
Mm.
So being in love with one person means that you are committed to that person, mean that you want to spend the rest of your life with that person. So just when, like I said, it was getting good, you are enough.
You are excellent.
You are empowered.
You are especially loved.
Yay.
All right.
Have a happy
Everyone,
Thanksgiving,
have a great evening.
everyone. I know
Everyone take
Thanksgiving is
care. Have a
coming
wonderful
up. Enjoy
holiday.
with your family. Be safe.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.